So I can imagine that this will probably be just about as good as the other matches that at least the matches that I've seen. And it looks like the runners are off now. So the runners are now starting off here in 1-1. 1-1 is a pretty basic level. And so a lot of World 1 times are, for the most part, very consistent. So there shouldn't be too much separation, although we'll probably start seeing some separation later on in World 5. So the runners here both got the propeller suit, which is the main power-up of the game, and they're going to try and keep it for as long as possible. So that way they can do some pretty difficult stuff later on as they get to World 5. Okay, so both runners are through 1-1. Looks like DCA kind of stood still for a moment there. And now they're heading up to 1-2. And 1-2 is the first tricky level for in the run. There's a lot of these little tight spaces here at the beginning. If you time your jumps incorrectly, you could accidentally get hit by one of those prop plants. As you can see, they're going to go down to get the star, which is to not only increase their movement speed, but to also just tank through these prop plants. Because if you could do this without a star, these prop plants are kind of a pain to avoid. So you're seeing that these runners are tilting their controller diagonally, and that is so that they can make the platform diagonal so that they can slide off of it. That way, and that's just a little bit faster. And now we're off to 1-3, which is normally the first level where you get Yoshi, but these runners are not going to be using Yoshi because they already have the propeller suits, and the propeller suit goes higher than Yoshi. They're going to get the secret exit here in 1-3, which requires Yoshi, but since they have the propeller suit, they don't need to get Yoshi. So both runners got the secret exit. Now they're going to get the cannon, and the cannon's going to take them to World 5. So at any percent of this game, you skip worlds 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. So that is quite a large portion of the game that you're skipping. And Toad here is going to let us know that the Goombas have kidnapped all the Toads, but we don't care. We're here to go fast. So we're going to head straight to World 5 and not rescue Toad at all. Okay, so now we're off to World 5. And World 5 is probably the hardest segment of the run. There are probably 2 of the hardest tricks in the run in World 5. So this will probably be the first instance where we start to see some lead swings. So the runners here are doing this very specific movement and that is so that they can guarantee themselves to get a star from this item block. So there's 2 ways to do it. We saw DCA get that star block by doing a bit of a harder method, but it's also a little bit faster. There's some other people would go for a more consistent method where they would run on the shell instead of jumping over the shell. But again, that's a little bit more. That's a little bit slower, but also more consistent. I believe we saw a death on Gabby there, which is very unfortunate. Like I said, World 5 is a really difficult world, so it's really easy to make mistakes like that. All right, so I can probably imagine that DCA is probably going to go for 5-3 on the bottom. Some runners will probably take the top level 5-2, which is about 4 seconds slower, but it's also easier and more safer level for a race setting. 5-3 is extremely difficult. You need to have really good movement in order for the time save in 5-3 to be worth it. So as you can see now, he's going down to 5-3. And he ran into that piranha plant. That is on purpose because you cannot avoid that piranha plant at all. You can do a death strat where you die and then avoid the piranha plant, but that is luck base, and it's also not faster. Also, you get 3 mushrooms as a reward for defeating the piranha plant, so it's not a... So it's, if you die somewhere later on, then those 3 mushrooms can be used as a safety net, so you don't lose too much time later on. So as you can see now, we see Gabby going to 5-2. Again, it's a more safer level, so definitely a really good strat to use for races like this. As you can see, DCA went through 5-2 very cleanly. You have to, like I said, the movement for 5-3, it has to be really good movement in order for the time save to be worth it. And even if you go for like safer strats in 5-3, you probably save maybe a second or 2. What makes 5-3 really hard is that the Bramballs have really terrible hitboxes. Sometimes when you land on them, you can it looks like that you get hit anyway, and that's because the hitboxes are really small on the Bramballs. For the for 5-2, the Wigglers have manageable hitboxes to where you can kind of squeeze yourself in between the giant Wigglers and the ceiling of the cave of the level. Unfortunately, DCA made some mistakes there, so he wasn't able to go for what is commonly known as 5-5-6. Almost got that star right there. I thought he was going to go for it just for the memes because he has to wait for this spiky wall to progress, but not so much. So now he's on to the Iggy fight, or I like to call him Idiot Koopa because Iggy's an idiot. And so the strategy is pretty much basic. You just jump on it 3 times, and you want to kind of know and these runners have fought Iggy Koopa enough times to know where exactly he's going to get up. And so once you just camp out there, you can just hit him right off the bat as soon as he gets up. On Gabby's end, as you can see, he has to go through a lot of cycles because he does not have propeller. So he's not going to have... So he's going to be losing a significant amount of time, unfortunately. So that's one of the hardest levels of World 5 out of the way for DiamondCrafter. Alright, and now coming up is 5-4. 5-4 is a very long autoscroller. where you have to ride this moat across the poison water. And there are falling enemies and falling power-ups, and the objective of the moat is that you cannot have 5 entities on the moat at all, otherwise the moat stops moving and you have to get rid of stuff. However, as you can see, there is a way to skip having to ride that moat, and that is by doing very precise propeller movement all the way across these like blocks. The first part of the skip that he's doing is are like the hardest part. Yep, he did those wall jumps very specifically, not too high to where he's going to get hit by the enemy, and well, low enough so that he doesn't get hit by the enemy, and high enough so that he makes it onto the ledge. And then at the very end, he delays, because if he kept going at that very last jump, a propellant will fall on top of him, which would make him lose his propeller and die. And this saves 2 minutes. And it's a very significant trick to go for. Unfortunately, since Gabby does not have a propeller, he is not going to be able to go for 5-4 skip. So meanwhile, DCA is now heading off to the ghost house. And the ghost house is normally a very complicated level. But since DCA knows exactly where to go, it's not so much of a maze for him. So the path that he took leads him to the secret exit. That was very clean movement right there. And let's see if he goes for this like really difficult strat. Okay, he's opting not to go for the difficult strat. So he kind of hugs the wall right there, so that he does not get hit by the boomerangs. There's like a really dumb strat, where you don't slow down where you don't slow down to stop for the boomerangs, but you have a really high chance of getting hit. So that's the secret exit of the ghost house, which is gonna take DCA to the canon level to world 8, and this will be the last world of the run. So as you can see right here, you can see how much slower 5-4 is when you have to ride this moat. It's kind of the consequence of not having a propeller here in this level. This is one of the reasons why propeller saves a lot of time here in World 5. Alright, so now we're heading off to 8-1. 8-1 is an extremely terrible level. Probably one of the worst levels as far as grinding PB attempts goes. It's the equivalent to 8-8 from New Super Mario Bros. Where there's falling meteors, as you can see right here. Oh man, that was a close one. Really nice adjustment for on his part right there. The meteors fall completely at random, and so it's basically just read and react and pray that the meteors allow you to go at a straight line without slowing down. Unfortunately, like I said, not in your control. He's going to be taking a damage boost right there to go through that lava pillar. And nice. That is very precise to do. You have to have really clean movement in order to get past that very last lava spout. And he made it there, no problem. If you slow down a single bit, then you die. So that was really good 8-1 on his part. Having to do one minor adjustment, but that's otherwise not too terrible. So it looks like Gabby went through 5-4 no problem, even with having to ride on the moat. And now DCA is heading on to 8-2. Not a terribly difficult level, but there are some things that can still go wrong here. So hopefully we don't see that. He does have a very significant lead, so he can afford to play a little bit safe. Although DCA is known for not playing safe, even in races, so we're probably going to see some really crazy things out of him. Avoids a checkpoint, and that is because it makes one part in 8-2 easier to go through as Small Mario. He grabs that star so he can tank through some of these enemies and gain a little bit of speed. Bumping a little bit right there, not a big deal. So this room right here is the reason why he kept Small Mario. Having to platform through that giant wheel is kind of difficult sometimes, especially when the Goombas come at you really fast. So that was the secret exit of 8-2, which is nice that the secret exit is here, because otherwise World 8 is an extremely long world. And so this is going to take him to the secret level. It's not really considered as a secret level. It's 8-7, which is the roller coaster level. It's a pseudo auto-scroll level. They have to ride the roller coaster through the whole level. But this still saves time over doing World 8 normally, because in World 8, there are some really painful levels. There is a very slow underwater level. There is a level where you have to escape rising lava. There is a level with a bunch of lava waves, a really painful fortress followed by an RNG boss fight, and as well as an extremely difficult auto-scroller. So this is a chance for DCA to kind of relax here. There are some minor things that he's doing to save like a second or two, and that is by taking advantage of the momentum of this roller coaster. Grabs that star coin. It's a bit of a tough star coin to get, so he uses the momentum right there. That allows him to save just a little bit of time, but if he does that for all the times he's riding on the roller coaster, that saves him about a couple seconds. So skipping over the power-ups, even though he can get the fire flower to tank a couple hits, it's still slower because of the power-up animation, and he's going to power up again later on in the next level anyway. Gets those wall jumps right there again. These minor optimizations, even though you can't just to do something to speed up these auto scrollers. Gets all 3 star coins. Just for swag right there. The star coins don't really do anything in this category. They're only useful on 100%. Alright, and that's 8-7 for DCA. Meanwhile, Gabby is going through 8-1. Looks like a very unfortunate pattern right off the bat there from that feed. Has to... he's tried to power up in the beginning, but unfortunately that giant meteor was in the way, and it takes a death in 8-1. So 8-1 is extremely... so as you can see right there, that's a demonstration of how punishing 8-1 can be. It can be a nerve-wracking level in PB attempts, especially when you're at the point where you're cutting your time very close. So meanwhile, DCA is on the airship. The airship is very difficult, as the entire level is based off of these spinning platforms that you have to ride in order to get across large gaps. But with precise propeller movement, he's going to try and skip most of that. Looks like Gabby took another death in 8-1. Again, extremely unfortunate, but that's just the nature of 8-1. Okay, nice. He got that really large gap and that's extremely tight. You need that jump is very specific. That otherwise, if you are barely off, you are going to die. See, Gabby has to wait for this lava spout right here. Otherwise, you are just so he doesn't get hit. See, he's trying to power himself up. So he at least lost his or he at least got power himself both times. So that way he can go through both damage boosts. So it looks like Gabby went through just fine. Oh, it looks like we got a power outage here. Wonder what we should do about that. Well, Gabby's still going, so I guess this is a free win for him. I guess we can say Mother Nature was too powerful for DCA. I shouldn't joke about that. I'm sorry. But meanwhile, we can see Gabby taking it safe on by powering himself up with the mushroom in case he takes a hit somewhere. So he went through that last section just fine. And now it'll be his turn to take on the roller coaster level. Oh, it looked like Gabby took a death in the roller coaster level. That's quite a big loss if you die, because I believe there are no checkpoints here in the level. So it looks like we're having a discussion on whether or not we're having a rematch for these guys, which would probably be, well, if Gabby agrees, then we'll have a rematch. Otherwise, if not, then, well, unfortunately, this will have to be a win for Gabby if he decides he wants to continue. But he's through the roller coaster level, and he is on his way to the airship. Gab's through the first part of that big jump right there. And it looks like he's through the second part. Very nice. That's really difficult. All right, so now he's into the Bowser Jr. fight. In the Bowser Jr. fight, there is a very dumb trick. He's probably not going to go for it because it's really dangerous to go for in a race at all. It looks like he is going for it. Okay, so that is what he's trying to do is a trick called bombless, where you can barely fit your hitbox inside Bowser Jr. And hit him without having to use a giant spiky bomb to hit him. Unfortunately, it is extremely inconsistent, and it takes a lot of balls to go for it in a race like this. To even attempt that is really insane. And so, because it is the second to last level in the run, it is extremely unfortunate that it is in the second to last level in the game, with it being that far. So, if you're going for, let's say, like a 24-minute time or even like world record, then you have to go for that trick because it saves that much time than using the bombs. So now he's off to Bowser's Castle. And Bowser's Castle has some tricky things that can go wrong, but hopefully we don't see that. First part's pretty straightforward. He has to just do some pretty precise jumps to avoid these fire bars. Looks like he had a bit of a hiccup, so he's trying to slow down to wait for those fireballs. Takes a hit, unfortunately, which means he's not going to go for a minor optimization here in this room. It also makes the Bowser fight a little bit more difficult. So this second part right here of the level is an auto scroller. And he just has to wait for the lava to sink down. There's a very dangerous strat where you can enter the pipe at the bottom at its like earliest point, but it's extremely dangerous to do because you know, if you're too early, you die. So it's better to be too late than to be too early in most situations. He gets through that part, and now he's going to take on the Bowser fight. In the corridor of the Bowser fight, there are these fireballs, and the fireballs shoot out at random. So he has to read and react to whichever patterns he gets. There's a couple safe zones that he can take. All right, so now it's off to the Bowser fight. So if you do some really technical stuff, you can actually barely get over Bowser, but it is random whether you get it, because Bowser can move backwards, which prevents you from getting the jump. But it looks like he made it through just fine. So now he's off to the escape sequence, and the escape sequence, and in the escape sequence, he has to wait for Giant Bowser to shoot his fireballs at the walls so he can get past the walls. He does very specific jumps so that he can manipulate where the fireballs are going to go. Then after that, now he has to go through the actual escape of this sequence, where he has to try not to make too many mistakes, otherwise the platform cycles are off, and also not die. It is really easy to, you know, be a little bit aggressive and fall in the lava and die. It looks like he did take a death, which is very unfortunate, because that loses a lot of time if if you die in the escape sequence. So now he has to try this again. He makes it through, but takes a hit, unfortunately. So we'll see how this next part goes for him. Whether he decides to power up or not. You can do this escape sequence without power up, but it's a bit more. It's a bit harder to do. Okay, so he did power himself up. Looks he's opting not to get a propeller suit from the block, so he's doing the rest of this escape sequence as small. Which again, very doable, but it's a little bit more trickier because you have to wait on a few platform cycles if you're not used to doing this as small. Okay, it looks like he made it. So that is GG's to Gabby there on a pretty good run, all things considered. So we're going to see if we can get a rematch going here. All right, it looks like they have both agreed to do a rematch, so we will get them set up. That means I gotta repeat everything that I said. Okay, looks like both runners are ready. We're seeing two different control schemes here in this matchup. We're seeing DCA using the Wii Remote, and we're seeing Gabby using the non-superior control scheme, Wii Remote and Nunchuck. I will say that right now. All right, and they are off. Well, at least Gabby is, and so is DCA. Okay, off to 1-1. So again, 1-1 is pretty basic. You have to. Ooh, Gabby messed up a little bit there. But otherwise, 1-1 is, well, at least World 1 in general is pretty pretty basic. Okay, looks like DCA is taking a pretty early lead there, with Gabby having that pretty unfortunate adjustments from that. They get the propeller suit, and they're going to try and keep it for majority of the run, because it saves quite a lot of time. So it looks like DCA with a nice early lead, and now they're hanging off to 1-2. One dash two is a pretty tough level. As in the beginning part right here, they're going through these really tight sections in order to avoid having to get hit by the prompt land. They get the star right here to increase their movement speed, so that way they don't. Well, yeah, they increase their movement speed and also tank through some of these enemies right here. So they tilt the controller on these gray platforms, so that way they can slide off of these platforms and already gained a little bit of speed because sliding is faster than running. Although tilting that can sometimes be a little bit difficult on Weird Mode Nunchuck control scheme. I don't know how people play with Weird Mode Nunchuck, in my opinion. It just seems really hard. So 1-3 here, as you can see, at least DCA is doing it. He's doing these very specific triple jumps to get over those hammer bros. Otherwise, you have to deal with some bit of randomness. And they get the secret exit here because that's going to lead them to the secret level of the secret exit to the cannon level, and the cannon level is going to lead them to World 5 because they skip Worlds 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7 in this run. All right, so DCA's through, and so is Gabby. So Toad is letting us know that the Goombas have kidnapped all the Toads. We don't care. We're just gonna move on with our lives. So a little bit of a hiccup there for Gabby. Sometimes going into these cannons are hard. And now we're off to World 5, which is probably the hardest world of the run. So again, DCA does this movement very specifically so that he can guarantee himself to get a star from that item block. And that's going to be useful so that way he can, well, it's just to gain a little bit of speed. You can go through this section without a star, but you are missing out on the movement speed that the star gives you otherwise. And that pool, going through that pool is really tough, at least for the way that he did it. Gabby taking a hit there. So it looks like he has to now go through his pool without propeller suit. But there's some nice little strats that you can do right here. You can freeze these piranha plants, so that way you can get through his pool easier. Takes another hit. That one's not terrible. That one's not a big deal. And DCA running to the piranha plant. You cannot avoid that piranha plant. You can do some death. You can take a death in the piranha plant level, but it is not faster to do so. And if you run into the piranha plant again, it is extra super slower. All right, so now he's moving on to 5-3. So he ground pounds right at the beginning there, and that's so he can set up for the cycles of these bramballs. Again, that other ground pound that you just saw him do sets him up for that cycle. Again, the bramballs have really terrible hitboxes, so at times you can, look like you land on the bramballs, but instead, the vines of these things have really huge hitboxes, so it's really easy to get hit by the vines. Meanwhile, you see Gabby doing 5-2 on the other hand. It's a safer level. Unfortunately, though, 5-2 does not have any. Well, there are propeller suits in the level itself, but they're not faster to get. Um, and you can get a pretty free propeller suit in 5-3. So sometimes, if runners do not have propeller suit coming into 5-3, they would usually take 5-3 to get their propeller suit back. You see these wigglers, their hitboxes are pretty great. So like sometimes it looks like he's about to get hit, but he just jumps on them really high up. Meanwhile, DCA is doing the tower. This is the first instance where the propeller suit saves a lot of time. Because it is a vertical climbing level, and you can gain a lot of height by spinning upwards with the propeller suit. And he does this movement. This movement's really difficult. Unfortunately, he lost a cycle. He didn't get up with the fastest cycle, which is what we call 556. But getting a 456 is still really good. It is about a 4-ish second loss if you don't get the fastest cycle. And every cycle that you miss is of course 4 seconds. As you see on the other hand here, we're seeing Gabby having to do this level without the propeller suit, and you can see how much slower this is as he has to wait on a bunch of different cycles. And it's really easy to get hit here. Meanwhile, DCA just finished fighting Idiot Koopa. And he knows exactly where Iggy Koopa comes out of, as he's fought him enough times to know that. So he just camps out at the spots that Iggy's going to get up at. So that way he can get the fastest kill for Iggy. Gabby having a little bit of trouble there in the in that part. And DCA is going to take a save here, which is a pretty nice safety strat for what's to come here. He's going to go for 5-4 skip. So normally there's this large moat, and you have to ride it across the poison water. It takes a long time. And what's even more painful about this moat is that there are these falling enemies and falling coins and falling power-ups. If you cannot have more than 5 entities on the moat, and by entities I mean coins count, power-ups count, enemies count, everything counts. So you have to get rid of a bunch of stuff while you're riding on the moat. So very clean 5-4 skip for DCA. It's a very difficult strat. A little bit of trouble for Iggy Koopa on Gabby. On the other hand, but he should have no problem here as long as okay, there we go. So what's difficult about 5-4 skip is that it's usually the beginning part. The beginning part is usually the hardest part because the first 2 jumps that he makes there has to be high enough so that he makes it on the ledge and low enough so that he doesn't get hit by the enemies. So unfortunately, because Gabby does not have a propeller suit, he's going to have to take the moat across 5-4. And it's a very painful level. It looks like Gabby has decided to take a forfeit, unfortunately. Meanwhile, DCA has went through 5 ghosts very cleanly. He does that little bump right there, so that way he does not get hit by the boomerang. So now he's off to the cannon level. All right, so now off to 8-1. 8-1 is a very scary level in PB attempts because the meteors here fall at random. So he has to basically just read and react. So you have to fly over one of those lava spouts due to the random pattern that he got. And then in just a moment, he is going to take a damage boost in order to get through some lava pillars. So it's coming up right here. He does that second one as well. And that one's very tight. That very last pillar that you went through is extremely tight. You have to have really precise movement in order to get through that. Otherwise, if you are barely too slow, then you just die. All right. So meanwhile, he now he's off to 8-2. Again, 8-2 is not a terribly difficult level, but there are still things that can go wrong. So hopefully we don't see that. So he skips that checkpoint right there because it makes the rest of the level a little bit easier small. Ooh, that was very scary. So he takes that star so he can get some movement speed. Yeah, going through those wheels are very it can be difficult sometimes because those Goombas come at you really fast. All right, so now DCA is off to 8-7, which is where the secret exit of 8-2 leads him to, which is nice that the secret exit is here because it allows him to skip a lot of World 8. World 8 has like a level where there's lava waves. There is a fortress that is really painful to go through, as well as a RNG boss fight, which sucks. And there is a really slow underwater level, and a really painful auto-scroller, and a level with rising lava. So he's doing these minor optimizations in this level to speed it up by like a couple seconds by taking advantage of the momentum of the roller coaster to gain a lot of speed. Like right there, and then he does his wall jump again to optimize movement here in this level. He gets all 3 star coins. And that's 8-7 for him. All right, now off to the airship. And the airship is very difficult, as there are a bunch of these. Ooh, that was a close one. There are a bunch of these spinning platforms that you have to use to get across the large gaps. But with precise propeller movement, you can get across pretty much most of them. So we'll see that from DCA here. Right here on this part, you can go slow, and you wouldn't lose any time because you have to wait for this pipe to go at a 360. So that large jump that he just did right there is extremely difficult. That jump that he did was very specific, so that way he can not get caught by one of those bars. Ooh, he tried to go. Oh, he's going for it. Okay, that's pretty risky that he even did that, but you know, DCA is going for. He's a madman, so he's trying to do whatever it takes to get a good time. Okay, so coming up is Bombless. DCA is likely going to go for this. Ooh, that was a very good attempt. Oh, he didn't quite get it. So unfortunately, yeah. So what he's trying to do there is he is trying to barely fit Mario's hitbox inside Bowser Jr. in order to get a hit off of him without having to use the bombs. It is very, very difficult. And with this trick being in the second to last level in the run, this is extremely punishing for PB attempts. Like if you're going for a world record or a 24, then you kind of have to go for this trick. So unfortunately, he did not get it at all. That is to be expected because that trick is not consistent at all. Now we're off to the castle here. So there's 3 main sections of the castle here. The first part is pretty movement based. There's a little minor thing that he's going to go for. Just saves a little bit of time with the propeller suits. Right there. And then now he's going to go into the second part, which is an auto-scroller, where he has to basically wait for the lava to sink down. And there's a bit of a very dangerous strat that he can go for, where if you enter the pipe really early, then you can save a little bit of time. But if you're too early, you will die. Ooh, he almost went in. Okay, that one was alright. Alright, and now he is off to the Bowser fight. Those are some favorable fireball patterns right there. And that was the hardest fight in the game. Alright, and now off to the escape sequence. So, as you can see, DCA is doing these very specific jumps, and that's so he can manipulate Bowser's fireballs to. Ooh, that was a very close one. Manipulate where Bowser's fireballs are going to shoot at, and it is pretty convenient that these duck jumps that he does lines up perfectly to where he wants Bowser's fireballs to go. As Bowser only shoots at the bottom hitbox of Mario. And now off to the actual part of the escape here. He is maintaining a decent enough movement so he knows where his platform cycles are, and that is time for DCA. So I don't know what his time is, but I can imagine it is a really good run, as there were not any major mistakes here in the run. So very good job for DCA. And then unfortunately, with the forfeit on Gabby's end, he had a very decent run before they had to request a rematch from the power outage. So good job for both runners. And with that, I think that's it, unless DCA wants to talk about something about his run. Looks like DC is attempting to get 69 coins. And he gets it. All right, so I guess if DCA is not going to come in, I am probably going to sign off. So hope you guys enjoyed what you saw here. Unfortunate forfeits from both DCA from the power outage and then a forfeit from Gabby from whatever he had going on his end. But congrats DC on the win, and congrats Gabby for trying his best. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next future races for the NSMW tournament. Stay tuned for other events as well. We have Link to the Past Randomizer, Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion Tournaments, Mario Bros. 3, Donkey Kong Country 3, Mario Odyssey, and a bunch of other stuff coming your way in speed gaming. So I've been M2338, and I am now signing off.